Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Picard Season 1 Episode 8 Broken Pieces. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Picard, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Picard up to Season 1 Episode 8. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So this episode, definitely not as good as last week's episode, is more of one of those sort of links in the chain type episodes where it's sort of, continuing the story and setting things up. But, we get a lot of reveals, a lot of information in this episode, and some character beats as well. I'm not sure how well I think it actually all worked. If I'm being perfectly honest, like some of these revelations didn't come off as like particularly like mind-blowing or oh my god that's awesome. It's kind of like I don't know, I got some questions. So the episode opens with the flashback of sort of flashback, if you wanted to call it that, of this weird Romulan ritual of the Zhat Vash, and apparently we learn basically, throughout this episode, we learn the deal with the Zhat Vash. I mean, Raffi is kind of like trying to put it together throughout the episode, and they sort of spell it out at the end, what basically we're seeing at the start, which is basically the initiation into the Zhat Vash, is you have to experience like this, apocalypse, catastrophic prophecy, whatever, that drives people insane, and most people like just kill themselves. They see someone like ripping their skin off, someone just shoots them in the head, themselves in the head, and someone else like bashes their own head in with a rock, which I don't know how effective that is, because you kind of, once you lose your murder skill, but anyway. And Cersei Lannister, whatever her name is, apparently is the only one who survived, and we see that her auntie is the weird, insane person who was an ex-Borg that Soji was interviewing when she went insane, saying, "You're the Destroyer." Now, I didn't get this from the episode itself, but some people did apparently, because I've seen another material online that apparently it's supposed to explain that the whole reason that Borg cube like sort of malfunctioned and got like turned off and separated from the collective is because the Borg started to go insane after they assimilated her, because they assimilated that same image, so the Borg sort of cut itself off from that cube to stop the infection from spreading, so that's why the cube got segregated from the collective. I mean, that's what I heard elsewhere. I didn't get that myself from the episode, but apparently that's what they say. But anyway, so the ritual we see at the beginning is the Zhat Vash, their initiation in the Zhat Vash, that only the strongest survive, and I just thought that was really silly. I'm sorry, this whole concept of this, the information that will drive you insane, make you claw your eyes out, is a bit horror B-movie-ish for me. I was going to say a bit fantasy-like, but even, I don't know. I don't know. And also another thing I didn't get from the episode itself, but I've heard at other places that apparently the prophecy or whatever is that the apparently if a synth life evolves to a certain point, it will unleash something that will like bring hell and terror on the world and the universe, not the world. But I don't know. I don't know about that either. It seems really vague. So the Zhat Vash had formed to ensure that that this would never happen, to destroy and kill all synthetic life, to ensure it never evolves past a point. And plus, in this flashback, we see her saying we will begin Commoner O. It's like we will begin on Mars. So it kind of confirms what everyone kind of figured out right away. Anyway, as soon as the Zhat Vash were introduced, that they are responsible for the attack on Mars, and they caused the synths to attack Mars because they wanted the goal to be to ban all synth technology. And it succeeded, but then they didn't count on Bruce Maddox like going off on his own and continuing this work anyway. And we get more pieces in that puzzle as well, because we find out this actually ties into Rio's backstory, which I didn't see coming. I think that's mighty coincidental, but it is interesting too, because of we knew he suffered a traumatic event with his former captain, and apparently we learn it's the captain was told by Commoner O, pretty much. I mean, they don't heavily imply it, that he had to kill these two people who came in peace as ambassadors. He had to shoot them in the head and kill them, otherwise he would destroy their ship. Now, granted, they refer to it as like sort of Black Ops Starfleet, but still, it seems like any official like leg of Starfleet or anything associated with Starfleet would not threaten to destroy someone's ship if they didn't follow orders. I don't see how they could get away with that, even if they did do it. I mean, I know Starfleet's corrupt, but come on. But regardless, I mean, that's what had happened, and so the dude did kill those people, and then he shot himself, and Rio was sort of covered the whole thing up. And that's why he freaked out when he saw Soji. This was like a mystery throughout the episode, and we got these silly scenes with Raffi talking to all the various holograms that each one has a different accent, which I don't know why they did it that way. And when they're all together, all speaking these weird accents, I mean, kudos to the actor. He does a good job doing all these different accents, but I found it annoying. I didn't find that scene. I didn't really understand what they were saying, and I just found that scene really annoying. Sorry. And the whole concept of Raffi trying to figure it out. It's just to hurry up and figure it out. Like, I don't know. Her just, I didn't find it interesting, her trying to figure it out. So, but basically, those androids he found out those were androids that the captain killed, and that's why Kamino ordered them to kill them, and they were from the planet that Bruce Maddox is from, the planet that Soji is from, and that's why one of the androids that we killed was the exact model, looked exactly like Soji, which is why he freaked out when he saw her. But somehow when they revealed this to Soji, she seemed to remember all this and know who they were, and she kind of talks about how, like, the moment she was told about all this, these memories came to her, so maybe that was in her program, is that once this stuff is revealed, they're like dormant memories that will activate, I guess. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting out of it. So anyway, Raffi figures it all out, puts it all together, that there were like 8 suns, like 300,000 years ago, thousands of years ago, somebody put like 8 suns right next to each other and a planet in between those 8 suns, just to show off, just to say, hey, look at this planet, it's really important. And on that planet was the information, like the thing that makes you go mad. And the Romulans discovered it, and so the Zhat Vash formed to ensure that that sentient life never evolved past a certain point, and they're like, oh, but then Dr. Soon started creating androids, and that's when they implanted Commodore O in Starfleet to ensure this program would be shut down. Question. I can't be the only one thinking this. So the Zhat Vash, a leg of the Romulan Tal Shiar, or their own secret little group, as we see, they kill any sentient life, and they try to shut down any programs doing so. Now, we know with Dr. Soon that he went off and did it on his own and was very isolationist. Why didn't they try to kill Data? It was like 40, 50 years he was in Starfleet? Maybe at least 40. And, he actually did die. Romulans were involved, but I don't think they could twist it to say it had anything to do with the Zhat Vash. It was with Shinzon, and his target was Picard, not Data. Data just happened to sacrifice himself to save Picard. So And even before that, there's been tons of encounters where the Enterprise encountered the Romulans, and no one ever tried to kill him. Like frickin' Sela is like, oh, let's flood the thing with the android captain. There wasn't someone saying, let's destroy the ship because it's an android. We need to wipe out all sentient life. So I don't know. This is kind of a retcon to me. I mean, I think the easy BS excuse here is, oh, they just didn't get around to killing Data. Maybe he wasn't evolved enough, as Soji and the others are evolving past Data, so it's scaring them more, so that's why they're more active. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I think this is all too all too obvious that they're just inventing this, and it doesn't really fit into established canon. I know you can say I'm being a canon hawk or whatever, but I don't know. Something about it really irks me. I don't know. I'm like with Discovery and Picard, I'm willing to forgive a lot of canon excuses, particularly when it comes to technology. But when it comes to established characters and established lore, I have give it a bit less leeway. And this case in particular is just like, yeah, I don't know. I think you're stretching it here. Sorry, I do. And so, I mean, I thought the interaction between Soji and the others was interesting. How she tried to take over the ship, but Rios managed to like sing his little lullaby or whatever and take down the force field, which is kind of cool. But they all agreed to go help her anyway. Like, I don't know, that was okay, but I just feel like there's some character development missing within this group. And then you have, Dr. Girardi, Agnes, as I always called her. Confessing to the crime, and Picard like calling her out on it. Like at first when Rios tells him, it's like no, but then he confronts her as if it's a fact, and she admits to it straight away. But yeah, I don't know. She's talking about how it seemed like she's talking like she had no control of her actions, that the thing that Kamino put in her head was controlling her. So obviously this is the same thing that drove the other people mad and is driving her mad, and she's trying not to think about it. I don't know. Something about it. Something about all this ancient prophecy. And I wonder if it will have anything to do with Control. Do you remember Control from Discovery? Because it's way too similar. If it has nothing to do with Control, then these newer tracks are being a bit uncreative and unoriginal, and sort of each creating like too similar of a storyline of an AI wiping out all the universe or whatever. So I kind of hope they tied it into Control. In fact, when they were talking about soon androids, I hoped that they would mention something about a crystalline entity or something, and that there was their plan to try to kill Data originally, but no. Nothing like that. They're more focused on the recent history, on the Picard timeline. So, but it doesn't make sense. Why would they just leave Data alone? You can say he's less evolved, and there's no risk of because he did create more. He created a law, so he could have created more androids, and they created more androids from him. I don't know. I could go on this forever. I just don't think it fits. But so the stuff with Girardi, and she admitted that she was. This stuff was okay too. Like I didn't have an issue with it, but I don't know. I just didn't find that all that interesting. I mean, there were some good character beats in there, sure, particularly with Picard. I will say before I forget it, there was this scene with Picard and Soji. When they were eating dinner, that I loved. I think, and this is like what I said last week, is that the show excels when it does this character beats moments, where it explores character. And that was when she was asking about Data, and she's like, what did you like about him? What did he like about you? And she's like, oh, that means he did love you. Like, that was a really great, really touching scene. And, we should have got more of that. And when they do this stuff with like all the holograms with different accents and this prophecy, I don't know. I just don't find it as interesting, but that's just me. Also, I need to talk about the scene with Admiral Clancy, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, Admiral Clancy, we see her again, and it seems like she needs to wash her mouth out with soap. I think, if I remember correctly, she's the only one who uses the F word in each scene. This is the second scene she uses the F word again. But if you know my feelings on this whole issue, I think it's fucking ridiculous. People comparing, oh, she said fuck. I don't care, but I don't know. It did kind of strike me that she's the only one that did it, and every time we see her, she has to say it. So I don't know what the deal, but I will admit, I did like when she said, oh, shut the fuck up. Because you did get the sense when Picard was kind of overplaying it. He was overplaying his hand. He was like, see, now you think I was crazy. Oh, so now those windmills turned out to be giant. Now who's right? Now who's correct? And I kind of feel like, and he kept interrupting her and like, oh, you're a waste of space if you don't do this. And I had the feeling, like, I think it was kind of obvious, kind of a comedy trope, that she was going to say yes all along, and he kept interrupting her, thinking that she was going to say no, and kept arguing against her, which is unnecessary. So I kind of did like how she was just like, shut the fuck up. Yes, I'm going to send you a squadron. Now, but I got some serious questions about this. What makes him think he can trust Starfleet? I mean, he knows. I can't remember if it was before the scene or after the scene, but he's kind of, I think he knew from Agnes. He's aware that Commodore O is involved in this conspiracy, and that she's involved in the Zhat Vash. So doesn't he realize by contacting Starfleet, he's contacting them? I don't know. I suppose the thinking here is that Commodore O is a spy, an implant. So it's not actually, Starfleet isn't actively or working with the Romulans or the Zhat Vash. That is kind of more of a conspiracy infiltration type thing. So Starfleet proper will still want to work against them, even though they have a plant inside. But he didn't even mention this to Clancy. Now, as I said, I can't remember if this scene was before or after he found out about Commodore O, but even if it was before, he can still tell her once he does know that, hey, any help you send us is going to be undermined by a freaking spy working for the Talshar, the Zhat Vash, that's in your midst. That's a freaking Commodore in Starfleet. So, I don't know. I just think that's something that should have been addressed. Alright, so the other bit of revelation we get in this episode is Commodore O's race, because there's been debates on whether or not she's a Romulan, she's a Vulcan, she's posing as a Vulcan, obviously, but people think, oh, maybe she's a Romulan. But then last week we saw her mind meld, so it's like, oh, that squares it, she's a Vulcan. Well, it turns out she's both. She's half Romulan, half Vulcan, which is an interesting concept. I'm not sure why they had to go that way, but whatever. I mean, they wanted the best of both worlds, I guess. Not the episode. But anyway, also, we got a nice little Easter egg here when Picard was talking to Rios about Rios' former commander that killed himself. I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but Picard is saying that he met him briefly, but he didn't really know him very well, but he knew of him from his friend, who was the dude who killed himself served as her first officer. And the friend he mentioned name was Marta, and I'm pretty sure this is a reference to the character that appeared in the episode Tapestry, because Picard referred to her as an old friend from Starfleet Academy, someone he went to Starfleet Academy with. And if you recall the episode Tapestry, it shows like he traveled back in time or whatever to when he was at the Academy, and he had two friends, and one of them was a woman named Marta. Now, in this episode, Jean-Luc and her got together, got it on, but I think this was kind of an alternate reality. In real life, they were just friends and nothing more. We're just friends, Q, nothing more. So I'm pretty sure this refers to the same woman that apparently she became a captain and had the first officer who became Rios' captain eventually, and eventually shot himself. But I don't know. I like these little Easter eggs. Anyway, so let me move over to the Borg cube stuff. Now, I kind of like Elnor got the little chip, as we saw in the last episode, and called the Fitness Rangers, and apparently 709 is the only one. But and I heard some people complaining, is like, where the hell did this chip come from? Why did it just come out of nowhere so that Elnor could call 7? It seemed rather inconvenient, but. Actually, that's Hugh's. Like, he's in Hugh's room, and I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, Hugh told him to go there and contact the Fitness Rangers. So it was actually explained right there in the episode. That's where did this come from? It came from because Hugh had it, and Hugh obviously knew 709, and so that's why he specifically contacted her, because when 709 shows up, she says, "Where's Hugh?" because she thought that Hugh was the one contacting her. But yeah, I like this. It does show Elnor as kind of an innocent child, like, even though he's like a warrior that's really deadly and can kill people. But when 7 shows up, because he would have been dead, as good as a warrior he is, but 7 showed up right at the last minute and saved him. And I like that the moment showing his character, that he's just a boy really when he hugs her when she arrives, and it's pretty nice. But the rest of the storyline I thought was a bit rushed, if I'm being a bit honest. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what I wanted to see more of. It just felt like I didn't really have time to digest it. It felt like, plot, action, plot, and not enough, just like boom, 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 like in Abrams movies, which sucks. I hate Abrams. But anyway, and I can't describe, like, you might be like, whoa, what else did you want them to do? I was like, I don't know, but I think they needed to do something, because I didn't feel connected that much to the stakes. I mean, was it really cool when 7 of 9 connected herself to the Borg Collective and they all attacked the Romans? Yeah, sure. That was cool. I liked it. Now, and I thought this, more than that, I thought it was an interesting character beat for 7 of 9. Because she explained, like, and it's funny in this scene, Eleanor was kind of the surrogate for the audience, because 7 of 9 was like, I could create this mini collective, outside the Borg Collective, just localized here on the ship, and I could be the queen, and we could all attack the Romulans. And Eleanor was like, yes, do that. And he's kind of being a surrogate for the audience, because that's what the audience is thinking. It's like, yes, do that. Kill these damn Romulans and become a collective. But then 7 has to be like, well, there's a cost to this, and she talks about how guilty she feels about it, sort of, because these people who were, enslaved by the Borg were used, and she feels like she'd be doing pretty much the same thing. She'd be using the Borg's technology, in fact, to do the same thing the Borg did to them and use them for her own purposes. But then eventually the situation gets really dire and she realizes she has to. Also, the other flip side of that is that it's feeling like being a collective, and she says that these people, like, Eleanor's just like, oh, you can disconnect them once they're done, and she's like, they're not going to want to be disconnected. And I love that line, because that's a callback to 7's own personal experience, because when she was first disconnected to the Borg, she did not want to be disconnected. She was like begging to be reconnected, and so she knew from experience. In fact, she was afraid she'd have like a relapse where she wouldn't want to be disconnected either. And it's kind of like, it kind of speaks to an addict, like having to like have a relapse or whatever, and afraid that they'll just fall right back into the same behaviors. And 7 of 9's Borg storyline is always, particularly the episode I referred to when she was disconnected from the Borg, has always been portrayed as kind of an addict, like going through withdrawals. So I like the nice callback to that. It's a shame, though, that we never actually got to see 7 and Hugh on screen together, because they said they were friends and they had very different experiences being disconnected. Like, Hugh was more of like a lost boy who just didn't understand, but 7 was more like a heroin addict who was addicted to the Borg. It would have been interesting to get their interactions, but they killed off Hugh, so unless they do flashbacks, which, they could do flashbacks. But really, I mean, how important is that? I don't know. It's not as poignant, I think, as having them in the present together. But whatever. So yeah, so that scene was pretty awesome. Where Seven connected herself, became essentially a Borg queen of this localized tiny collective, and she's like, "We are Borg," and they all came alive. But Cersei just tried to kill them all, blow them all out into space. But apparently, she didn't get them all. And I like the really subtlety of the scene where the Borg, the XPs or whatever, the new collective. Go after Cersei Howell. She's just, because it was really I had to watch it a couple times to really catch it, because she's just talking to her second and just oh yeah, do this, and the XBs just come out of nowhere and just completely jump all over this guy and kill him right away, so fast that she didn't even notice. As an audience member, I didn't even notice at first either, until she turned around, and all of a sudden, instead of seeing her second, it was a bunch of XBs converging on her. I did really like that. I think that was effectively creepy. Now we do see them all converge on her and rip at her and go ah. So does this mean she's dead? If I read the scene correctly, which I'm not sure I do, it seemed to be that she might have been beamed away, because we do see one of the shots where all the XPs are converging on her. We see a bright light, so I think that may have been the transporter beaming her away, which is rather convenient. And plus, I don't think that they would kill off this character so easily like that. I think they want to keep her around for a while, so I'm pretty sure that was the case, that she beamed away. But because after and later didn't necessarily say, "Oh, we killed her," they just said that the ship is ours again. So if she's not there anymore, then and all the Romulan ships fucked off. Now I don't know if that will make a difference that they now control this ship, but I did like how Elnor was kind of "Oh shit, are you gonna assimilate me now?" And but no, they didn't. The collective, whatever, said that Annika still has work to do, so they let her go. And that says a lot that they're willing to do that, and that also says a lot that Annika was able to disconnect herself from that and let go. But it seems like the rest of the other ones are still a collective. It does remind me a little bit of that Voyager episode Unity, where they had their sort of own collective, although it was more of a collective of individuals, where this seems like more of a one hive mind type situation. But anyway, yeah, so I did like this storyline. I don't know, part of me thinks that it could have been better. I don't think they kind of focused more on the other. It seems like they didn't focus on this one enough. It seemed like they didn't pay it enough attention. It was kind of just oh yeah, this is a side thing going on this Borg cube with Elnor or whatever. And it seems like they're kind of playing it like a minor. Elnor is not that important, really. I still don't feel like I got it. I think this episode did do a lot to develop this character more, but I still feel like I don't have a really firm grasp on who this character is, or who any of these new characters in Picard. I think maybe I get Rios, and I think this episode also did a lot to develop Rios. So I feel like I get Rios and Raffi, and possibly even Jurati more than I do Elnor. But Elnor is kind of just a simple archetype character. He's the young naive warrior type, and I do think that's all there is to it. But not saying that's a bad thing. I think that it could do a lot of great things for him. But having him alone in his own little storyline in Hugh last episode and 7 of 9 this episode, I don't know. I would question that. It seems like he should be by Picard's side, and that this character would work better in a larger group dynamic rather than being the focus of the storyline. That's just all I'm saying. Yeah, so I think that's about it. That's all I have to say about this episode. So my rating for this episode out of 10, I'll give it a 7. I was very close to giving this a 6. But I'm gonna up the rating slightly because of there were really great character moments, particularly the one with Picard and Soji. Like, that was an amazing character moment. Like, that got the feels, and that was great. And some of the development they did with Rios was actually really good as well. I thought it was very interesting, although quite convenient, but very interesting that it happened to tie his backstory of why he was, so traumatized, happened to tie into the main storyline. And of course, I think they did some great character stuff with Jurati in this episode as well. So yeah, I thought that was good. But overall, I wouldn't say it was a really great episode. As I said, like, I love the 7 and 9 becoming a Borg Queen and all that, but I think that storyline was a tad bit rushed and not maybe done as well as the others. And plus, I really did not like those holograms, 5 of them together, speaking different accents, and Raffi trying to figure it out. Like, those things were a bit annoying. So overall, I don't, especially coming off of last week's episode, which I think was really powerful. I think this week's was kind of a step down, but it was still good. It's still a good episode. Anyway, that is it for my review of Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 8. I shall be back next week to cover the next episode of Picard, so be sure to check that out. And also check out my channel as I cover many other shows like Star Trek The Expanse, Better Call Saul, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.